Hello everyone, welcome to week 6 of our assessment course. I hope you enjoyed your mid-winter break. Spring is right around the corner, and this actually marks the halfway point of the course, session 6. We got about a foot of snow here last week. I was up visiting my wife in Harris, which is right near Monticello, New York, in Sullivan County in the Borscht Belt. And actually was snowed in there for a bit. I brought my Jeep up there. She was using my Jeep. And actually my plowman didn't come till 6 o'clock when I was home, the first storm, and so I didn't get out all day. But anyway, enough of that. The weather is warm here today. I'm doing this on Sunday. The weather is in the 40s, and we're expecting it to go back to cold by the end of the week. Let's do a little housekeeping. We had some great conversations on Hard as the Dickens over the last 3 weeks. What I found is that there are less people that seem to be dramatically opposed to the standardized testing system, and personally I think that's great. My goal is not to convince you one way or the other that standardized testing is good or bad. It has its positives and it has its negatives. Just go on to procon.org and you'll see both sides of the issue. That's not my goal. My goal is that you will be able to know how these tests are created, the validity, the reliability, and the absence of bias work that goes into them, so you can talk about them intelligently. So when somebody starts bashing them in the teacher's room or out in the lobby of your local synagogue or church or temple, then you can say, hey, look, the cost of assessment is only 1/2 of 1% of a school district's budget. When they start blasting about how much these cost, yes, it costs $300 to $1,000 per question, but the overall cost put in perspective of the K through 12 spending is very, very minuscule. So that's my goal for this, not to try to put you down for not liking them, but try to get you to examine some of the myths and some of the misconceptions that you may have about them. I read a lot about these tests being necessary evils, and I think that's a little dramatic, but I've always said, and you can find this throughout the literature on educational testing, the best results are from the teachers who do the best job teaching. Not the drill and kill, not the mindless test prep, but good teaching produces good test results. All right. Often I get in these discussion boards. Now, this is the only one I really haven't now about standardized testing. I used to have a couple of them where you got a chance to pull out your guns and go firing. This is the only one I have now. I think I just belabored it too much in the past. But I often get, I was a bad test taker rationale. Okay, this is anecdotal evidence, which you can say, but I liked what Jacob said. Jacob made a post, I think, on Friday, so it was towards the end of the third week of the DB, so many of you probably didn't see it. But I liked his reaction when he said, if a student is bad in math, do we outlaw math and say, stop teaching math? It's terrible, my child can't do it? No, we try to do it better. We try to teach it better. And I think the Common Core has that in mind, especially in math, that students will become more involved in the whole process of math, not just the rote memorization of facts and processes. Jacob said, similarly, if a student is a bad test taker, does that mean we get rid of the tests? And I like that. No, we teach them how to become better test makers. And I think if many of you who say that you were bad test takers had that kind of training, you may not be feeling that. You may not be feeling that way right now. A lot of you mentioned that teacher tests were better than standardized tests because they could be tailored. The teacher can tailor them to students' individual needs. Now, this is something new to me, that teachers tailor tests to their students' needs. Now, if you're talking about accommodations, that's different. All students with special needs are entitled to accommodations, but creating different tests for different students is really not what you should be doing when you're giving summative assessments. Now, you can differentiate your instruction and give tiered assignments. In other words, you can differentiate your assignments based on readiness level, interests, or learning profile. But when you give a formative or a summative assessment at the end of learning, you should not be giving different tests. So I just want to make that clear, that your tests should be the same. Not all students will be able to master that material, but that's okay. That gives you information as to what you need to go back and work with those students on before moving on with those particular students. But I would not recommend giving different tests to different students if you want to see how your students are progressing and get a good idea of that. All right. And one of the things that I got really disturbed me is when I read about how special needs students shouldn't be taking these tests. And one of the things that I posted in the DB and that I'm going to share with you is that the Council for Exceptional Children is very clear about their policy on assessment and accountability. And you all should be familiar with this. You should all read this. And I will have it posted in my teaching memo. You'll be able to click on it and get to this document. And you may be surprised at what you read. Council of Exceptional Children is the main advocacy group for special education and special education students. So make sure you check that out and be familiar with it. Okay. There are also a few comments about item writers for Pearson not being teachers. Now, I'm not sure of that. Most testing companies hire curriculum experts. Now, in my opinion, curriculum experts are either college professors who are teaching the curriculum, or former teachers or current teachers who are familiar with the curriculum. If I were running a for-profit company and I wanted to create the best kind of tests, and I know many of you don't think that Pearson or McGraw-Hill or these other large companies are creating good tests, but why in the world would a for-profit company not create the best possible test? Why would they create tests that make people angry? And the answer is they wouldn't. They're like any for-profit company. They're trying to be the best they can be. That's capitalism. That's the for-profit motto is that we need to make a better product in order to make more money. So think about that. It's not that they're out to, they don't care. And so you got to keep that in mind. One of the things that I wanted you to look at was their testing website. Now I'm going to go, here it is here. This is if you go onto the testing website, and again I have a link in the teaching memo, you'll see that there are opportunities for you teachers, certified teachers, to participate in this whole process. So those of you that are bashing it because you don't think teachers are involved, teachers are involved. So it's important that you know that. The last couple of things in housekeeping is that I wanted to mention a website that Janice from my OR section shared about teaching tolerance, and this is about bias. Again, this isn't strictly related to creating tests, but it is about the hidden kinds of prejudice that we all have and that we all need to bring to the surface, bring to our awareness, so that when we are creating tests or we are dealing with our students, these don't start operating from our unconscious. We need to make them conscious, so we are dealing with them. So thanks, Janice, for that. And Tanya added a website, which I thought was interesting, and she just did it yesterday, which was Saturday, or it might have been today, Sunday. But about from Occupation Outlook Quarterly, I know I have in course materials an article about psychometricians, and this is another one I thought was very good, that described a person who is a psychometrician and what she does, how much money they make, etc., etc. So again, I have it on my teaching memo. You can check that out. Thank you, Tanya, for sharing that. We also had a couple people who submitted video postings for their initial post, and I forgot to mention that last week, but you can do that for any initial post that we have. That from now on you can do a video, and that reduces the amount of total posts that you have to make. I think it reduces it by one. In the first, instead of 6, you only have to do 5. And I think to get an A+, I think it reduces it from 10 to 8. But I'm not positive. If you go into session folder and go into session 5, and in course materials, you'll see there's a little blurb. Maybe it's session 4. Oh my goodness. If we go into session 4 handouts and you go into course materials, I believe there's a blurb. There it is. And I don't know if I talk about how it reduces. Oh yeah, only if you do, you're only required to post 4 other times. So there's 5. Only 1 other time if you post 6 times for grade of 5. So for grade of 5, you only have to do 6 posts. That's pretty good. So it saves you 4 posts. So kudos to those 2 people who did that. And we'll probably have a couple more discussion boards. So you are welcome to do that. Let's talk about session 6. Let's go into session folders, and we are on session 6, which will go from Monday the 24th to March 2nd. This assignment, there's only one assignment that is due. That's a quiz on reliability and validity. I've also posted a video where Popham, your textbook author, talks about assessment bias, and you'll also have a quiz, a true-false quiz on assessment bias next week. So it would be good to watch this video. The topic this week is going to be on the second leg of the 3-legged test creation triangle on validity. So you'll continue to read Cohen and Spencer's chapter 5. That talks about both reliability and validity. Popham's chapter 4 is strictly on validity, and you will also have a quiz on reliability and validity. You also will have, and I didn't get the vocabulary in your own words, I'll upload that now, so I can show you some of the vocabulary words you're going to encounter this week. So it's important. Remember that this is not due to week 11. So those of you that are filling it out already, don't do that. Wait. Do it as you encounter the words. Much better, and then write them in your own words. So this week you'll see you have consequential validity here. You have content-related validity, which is the main type of validity, which you should be concerned with. There's also, what else do we have here? think there's at least predictive validity, which has to do with like the SATs, how can they predict future success? Or a lot of screening instruments have to have predictive validity, how a student will succeed in, say, kindergarten. Pre-kindergarten screening would have to have predictive validity. And let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. I used to have face validity in here. Popham talks about it towards the end of his chapter 4. But I took that out because it really isn't a real type of validity. It's just that something looks valid. It appears to be valid. That has face validity. So those are the vocabulary in your own words. And also in this session, we will be starting to look at the your selected response test. I've added, this is the EdTPA special education. This is what you will be doing your selected response test on. In course materials, let's go back and go into course materials for session 6. You'll see I've added many things, many artifacts that you will need. Here's the hard copy of the quiz on reliability and validity. This is the EdTPA. This is the document by which you will be, those of you that will be getting certified, will be using, will be following. So that's why I'm doing this. It's important that you know this document. These are 2 chapters from Chapaway et al. Stiggins, Chapaway, Arter, and Chapaway. This is a book that I used in my summer class, the textbook I used. So I'm taking 2 chapters from this. Chapter 5 is really the one about creating a selected response test. I believe chapter 4 is about creating learning targets, which you're going to have to do. This is a guidebook. It's a short booklet on creating effective test questions. It's called "Is This a Trick Question?" because we don't want you writing trick questions. And here are 5 exemplars. These are exemplars which I talk about. This one is good because, this one is okay because, I also have a video which will be in the next session's course materials, I believe, on how to create a selected response test, what my expectations are. I go over the rubric, I go over how to make hanging indents, how to do a matching, how to create 2-column matching questions. So a lot of good stuff is coming up, but you're starting to focus on this now. There will be a discussion board next week where you will upload your first draft of your selected response test, and you'll be broken down into groups, and you'll take each other's tests and give each other feedback. So that's what's coming in the future. So you can start working on that now. There's not a lot of homework you have this week. What else? One last thing, there will be no final exam. Some of you have talked about a final exam, and I know I've tried to edit out all those pieces in my video where I talk about the final exam, and I obviously haven't done a good job of it because there still exists floating out there. So there is no final exam. It wouldn't hurt you to look at the questions that you encounter and try to find the answers, but there is no final. And that's it for the session. Again, cold weather's coming, but spring is less than a month away. Also, check out my Facebook page. It's a page where you can you can join, become a member, and I've updated it just today with a great video on formative assessment for math. So check it out and like it, and even join it. It's a good way to stay in contact with all the updates that are going on in assessment, even as the semester ends and you go on about the rest of your life. So that's it. I will see you in 1 week.